For our first afternoon keynote, please join me in welcoming Gregory Gadotti, Chief Marketing Officer of Ferrara, and Stuart Aitken, SVP and Chief Merchant and Marketing Officer at Kroger. Gregory and Stuart will be interviewed by Aaron Cabry, Senior Reporter at Retail Brew.
Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to New York, I'd love to see LA. I really want to come pick you with you.
Stuart, Greg, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today. How are you both?
Good. Very good.
Good. So we're here today to talk about brand and customer loyalty, which is a very dynamic topic that we've kind of all been talking about at the show thus far and how it's changing so much. So I'd love to kick things off to just hear from you both what you're seeing in terms of changing brand and customer loyalty and some of the challenges that might present for both of you in your roles.
So I'll start. Stuart Aitken, clearly not from the US, so if you can't understand it, Aaron can interpret for you. Originally from Scotland. So to answer your question, one of the biggest pieces around loyalty and what we're seeing change in loyalty right now is this notion of value. And frankly, the bifurcation of the customer right now is creating a bifurcation in what customers are looking for in terms of loyalty. So value from a monetary standpoint is unbelievably important for those who are scraping to get by to the end of the month, and what you do to fulfill those needs is fundamentally different. And then you have this notion of time and the value of time, both for those who don't have quite as much discretionary income, as well as those who have the discretionary income, and how you provide that value. And do it in a way that delivers trust with the consumer, unbelievably important, as well as relevancy. And that relevancy in terms of personalization can deliver time back to the consumer, which is incredibly important right now. So those would be the three big trends in my mind.
Yeah, and I think just to build off what Stuart said, so my name is Greg, and I work for the Ferrara Candy Company. And while you might not have heard of Ferrara, I'm sure you've heard of Nerds, Sweet Tarts, Trolli, Lemonhead, Laffy Taffy. So we have a stable of incredible brands. And
Before he goes any further, I've got to tell you what we just did backstage. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He opens up all these brand new products. We're all hyped up like you wouldn't believe. If my
No, I was like,
be afraid.
no, but I'm holding my legs. But I think this element is like we had a little rush going. But I think the element of relevance, and I think when we think about our brands and our businesses, I mean, we have many storied and iconic brands, and how do we really, being in a 100% emotional category, we really think about it in terms of like, how are we driving that mental availability? How are we driving that physical availability? How are we staying core to the trends of the business? And that's like, when we talk about some of the work that we're doing across Nerds or Lemonhead or Trolli, it's like, how are we connecting with the consumer in a way that's unique to them now? And how are we bringing them a product that is relevant to them now, so they understand the brand, but how are our products evolving to do that? And that was some of the stuff we were trying, which was awesome.
Just on that point, Aaron, the other thing you're doing incredibly well is tapping into nostalgia. And when you've got a brand like yours and the ability to tap into nostalgia and make it relevant for now is something you all are doing incredibly well as well.
Great, thank you. And I'd say that, I mean, it's like we could spend the whole 20 minutes just going back and forth, because we got to be really good friends backstage. It was awesome, because we were talking about that element of like, where, when is the consumer most receptive to your message? So what are we approaching right now? It's Halloween. And you think about candy corn being a marker of fall. So when consumers see candy corn on the shelves, it's like those memories and emotions come back. And we were talking about what an incredible job that Kroger does in terms of managing those seasons across, and the element of, the summer season, which we just came out of. I think at Kroger, it might be the second biggest behind Halloween, and those kind of elements. So having that understanding of what's most resonant to your consumer, but also your shopper at that time frame, so you're communicating to the market across paid, earned, owned, and then as you go into a Kroger and find yourself and see candy corn as an example, or spooky Nerds gummy clusters, it really brings it all home.
And Stuart, obviously for Kroger, one of the main aspects of driving customer loyalty is the loyalty program. So I'd love for you to kind of share some of the aspects, perhaps even some new aspects of the loyalty program that are helping to keep consumers coming back and also to promote affordability for consumers.
Yep, happily. So Kroger has the Kroger Plus card, one of the oldest loyalty programs in the country. And the beautiful thing there, Aaron, is 97% of every single transaction is tethered to that Plus card. And then when we talk to the customer, 4 out of 5 say they get value from that Plus card. Incredibly valuable for us. The data then becomes even more important, more valuable for us. And recently we've launched our Boost membership program, $59 for next day delivery plus 2x fuel points, and then $99. And in fact, today, I'm thrilled to be able to announce that we've just struck a streaming membership program too, because we're constantly talking to our customers and asking them, what's important to you? What are you looking for? And they've told us streaming's important. So, drum roll, we are just announced a free streaming with our membership program for Disney Plus, which is incredibly exciting for our customers. Woo! Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for that. But the interesting thing is, and what's differentiated about this is its choice. Customers want choice, so they can choose between Disney Plus, Hulu, or ESPN Plus through this membership. That's what the customers are looking for. And how do you keep it fresh and new? And that's exactly what we're looking to do at Kroger.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of new, I think a big part of engaging customers is offering them newness, whether that be new innovations and new products or new aspects of the loyalty program, other options and offerings. So I'd love to hear from you how you guys are kind of approaching newness to drive customer loyalty.
I think the, in terms of the consumer, there are so many examples across the sugar portfolio because there's so many brands that are known and loved. But you think about, I'll use, Nerds as an example, and it was a brand that was launched in 1983 in a dual chamber, like it had even a sound equity of a shake. It's an incredible business, and it was honestly, people knew about the brand, but there's an element of it being messy. So it tracked around a $50 million business. So as a few years ago, it's like, it's a brand that's known, how do you make it more relevant for the time? And I think this element of, we had the original Nerds and you had a Nerds rope. And if those who have tried a Nerds rope, it's awesome. But after bite 4, you've had more than enough. And so this element of like, how could you make Nerds poppable? And so this element and it, in this area of like, how can you, and we started with like cutting Nerds ropes, and it's like that had an overkill of Nerds. So this element of like, how do you make this element poppable? So like in a broad consumer trend, consumers are looking for more complex mouthfeel, multi-texture, multi-sensorial, multi-flavor, multi-color, and this element of poppability and convenience. And it all came together in this one element that brought, I know the Nerds brands, I know those little tangy, crunchy pieces. It's now put together in a Nerds gummy cluster, and it was honestly this exponential growth of the business that skyrocketed the business from 50 million to over 700 million in just under 5 years.
Wow.
Which is really amazing. But it's like it's that power of like, you have a brand that's known, you're understanding the trends that are driving with the consumer and what they're looking for, and it all came together. And I think that's one example, and it's probably the best example we've got. But there are things that we're doing across our total portfolio to really drive that connection with the consumer. Because I think, and I say to my team a lot, like, when you know who you are, you know what to do. And like when that's really like when you understand the foundation of that business, you kind of know the spaces that you can play in.
Very good.
Do you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, I love it. The notion of newness and bringing newness and nostalgia together. Think about the emotional element of nostalgia, and then think about the tactile nature of what Greg just showed, that poppable piece. That's what consumers are looking for. So how do you bring nostalgia, emotional, with a tactile approach? You're invoking all of these emotions at once, smell, all of those, and then taste. It's such a fun place to play in. Phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And when you both are thinking about new offerings that you're rolling out to consumers, and you're talking about, keying into the trends and things like that, how are you becoming aware of those consumer needs and pain points and even white space in the categories you play in?
From a consumer needs standpoint, right now, you're seeing customers needing more time. And this is something that we are constantly working on at Kroger. How do we save the consumer time? Whether it's shopping itself. So today, online, because of personalization, we can save the consumer. It's 4 times faster to shop online today than it was just 3 years ago at Kroger. And constantly timing how long it takes for a customer to fill their basket, that becomes incredibly important for us. And then making sure the product shows up on time for the consumer, because their time is massively valuable. And then ensuring they get all the products they want. I was listening to Fiji earlier, and one of the most important things the consumer's looking for is order accuracy. If you're missing an item that's in one of the bundles for, let's say, a pasta dinner, and you're missing the pasta, that's an issue. You just think it's one item. That's dinner tonight, and that's a problem for the consumer. Your NPS scores fall off a cliff when you lose one item. And don't be thinking about it from a one-item standpoint. Think about it in the context of that meal that your consumer now can't fulfill because of it. So for us, looking at certain aspects, and value is just as important. How do you offer value? Beginning of the month is very different than the end of the month. The beginning of the month, bigger pack sizes, et cetera. End of the month, smaller price points, smaller pack sizes. That's where what the consumer's looking for. So constantly rolling through our data to understand what's most important to the consumer. And then from a coupon standpoint, CPGs send out digital coupons all the time. We will scrape those for customers and then prioritize them based on what's most important to them, the consumer, so they don't have to troll through 600 coupons. They get to scroll through the 40 that are most important to them. So how do you save them time? How do you save them money? And do that cohesively together.
And it gets to a point of I was just drafting out, thinking of what you're saying, like when you think about, as it goes to a manufacturer, making sure you've got the right price pack architecture. So when you're looking for, again, beginning of the month, make sure you got big packs in the back of store. How do you make sure you got share sizes in the front of store? So that kind of stuff in terms of driving, which is something I learned way back in the day working in batteries. It was like this multiple points of interruption.
Yes.
And that kind of element is like, how do you keep in mind and have that relevant size for that shopper's need across?
And Greg, I know for Ferrara, it's been really important to stay top of mind with consumers through presence in popular culture and social media. So I'd love to hear kind of the strategy behind that, both when you're thinking about paid media, like say a Super Bowl ad, or showing up for more organic TikTok trends like a candy salad or something like that.
Yeah, the candy salad I think is played out, but I think we're still doing stuff.
It's a personal favorite of mine.
No, but the interesting thing is like it's still happening, and I think that element I do feel like the relationship has become so much more one at scale, because you have people commenting on your TikToks, you have, based on what you're putting up on Instagram, and then people are owning that discussion on their own. And so what we really, we have a thing that we call, at our company, Sugar Rush, and it really is, how do we have so many people, we are all on social media personally, and we actually have an email that we just send, like, I've seen this, I do this, and we have a team that actually responds within 12 hours or 24 hours based on what's there. That's how we get a feel for what's going on, like how do we really capitalize on the environment, because like everybody talks about candy, and like you think about today, candy corn. I hate candy corn. I love candy corn, but everybody's talking about candy corn, and that kind of like you can kind of fuel that on the one side. But I think we've been able to tap that intelligence to, whether it's within our consumer response group or the kind of online testing or testing we do socially for some of our ideas. And then so we've really used the benefit of like people talking about the category to drive intelligence on our products.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stuart, I know for Kroger, personalization has been key in reaching consumers and kind of keeping them coming back. So I'd love to hear from you some of the strategy around that and driving loyalty.
Yeah, so from a personalization standpoint, it's something Kroger's done for an awfully long time. The biggest difference today is the amount of compute we have available to us, and now the ability with AI to generate text that's meaningful to an individual is extraordinary. And so you start thinking about the permutations you can bring together and truly personalize messages to consumers based on what they open. So we analyze subject lines to see what an individual might open versus how you might have managed it in the past. And then what items do you show to get the consumer to open? So the advent of generative AI today from a creative standpoint, a messaging standpoint, and then with the behavioral data, you've got a massive opportunity to truly bring to life what personalization has promised for many, many decades.
And kind of going off of that point of personalization, I'd love to hear from both of you kind of how you're reaching specific consumer groups and communities and different segments. I know Ferrara's kind of been big in the gaming community, so I'd love to hear some examples of that in driving customer loyalty.
Yeah, I think the element, like, again, when you have a brand and you know what your consumer base is, like Trolley is a great example, and it very much is a Gen Z, skews male. Actually, more Hispanic consumers are big fans of Trolley, but they definitely are digital natives, big time gamers. And as even the product that we're launching, this year is it's a flavor and shape, and it's called the Sour Squad, and it's actually 3 different shaped worms, but they all have a gaming personality, and it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's like this Trolley's a business about like really pushing the boundaries, and that kind of element is what we're seeing in the way we engage with consumers, and the fact is, with Trolley, we will launch with like Elden Rings was a game recently, and we rebranded some of our PCOs and made it, we do short runs, 1,000. You get them until they're gone type things. And what we've, those kind of elements, is like, it really is like you see a gamer and like, okay, you see me and I want that. So like, I think Trolley's done a pretty exquisite job of connecting with the gaming community and really providing products that deliver at scale with different values on our pack, whether it be with Xbox's stuff we're doing over the course with different IPs this season right now, but that kind of like one-to-one, see it on Reddit, it happens, it goes, and like so that there's that kind of we have that same kind of perspective coming across with our Gen Z consumer there.
Yeah, so talking about Gen Z, one of the things we at Kroger have realized is we don't talk about some of the good we do for the community. And from a zero hunger, zero waste standpoint, the literally billions of meals we've given to hungry Americans. When you think 1 in 8 go to bed hungry every night, that is shocking. And so how do we all help this industry all help in feeding America? In fact, Kroger was a founding member of Feeding America. But sharing that story of what we're doing, what we're all as an industry doing is phenomenal. And I think it's a story that's missed, and it's one we're all trying to tell, because I'm not sure there's a more generous industry than our industry in terms of giving back. And sharing that story collectively is something I think that is incredibly important for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's all the time we have, but Craig Stewart, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Like in this American boy, American boy. Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday.